So, anew I am saying, I am the gate. You remember last Sunday we talked about Jesus being the bread. So of course the loaf of bread next to that gate. And when Jesus used that particular image, he was using something that was central to Jewish culture. Bread is a filler for us, as we talked about last Sunday, but in Jewish culture, when it came to the meal, bread was the center of the meal. Bread was central for every Jewish meal. And so when Jesus uses this image of bread, he's implying that like bread is central to a meal, so I should be central to your life. And when I'm central to your life, then I'm full, as bread fills. And 2 Sundays ago, we talked about light, how Jesus used the image of light to convey another truth about himself. Just as light keeps us from stumbling in darkness, when Jesus uses the image of the light, he's trying to symbolize and convey to everyone that if you walk with him in his light, you will not stumble to the darkness of sin. Light, good image for Jesus. Bread, good image for Jesus. And now today, we come to this image of a gate. As I shared with you earlier, it's in the context of talking about sheep, shepherding them, that Jesus uses the image of a gate. Sheep were very important in Jewish culture in Jesus' day. They were important for food. Sheep were a good food source. But most importantly, sheep were important for their wool. It's the wool that really brought value to the sheep. And so because sheep were so important in that culture, they needed to be cared for, guarded, and protected. During the day, sheep were allowed to graze on the hillsides around Jerusalem, under the watchful eye and protection of the shepherd. At night then, the sheep were gathered together, as I told the children, and placed in pens. They were placed in pens to protect them from predators or thieves. Now the head shepherd would almost always sleep at the gate of the pen. The head shepherd would sleep at the gate of the pen to prevent anyone from coming and opening the pen gate and stealing. Or the shepherd slept there to prevent the gate from accidentally being opened. So the shepherd slept at the gate. And because everyone knew that, this image of a shepherd and gate became one in the Jewish eyes of the people. And so when Jesus uses this image of a gate to describe himself, the implication is crystal clear to the Jewish mind. Just as you will find the head shepherd at a gate, and just as a gate provides entry into the pen, which was a place of security and peace, so Jesus was implying that you'll find him at the gate to the kingdom. And that gate will provide you entry into a place of security, peace, and freedom. I am the gate, said Jesus. You'll find me at the entry into the kingdom of God. You'll find me opening the door for you so you can go into a place of joy, of peace, security. In China, there is a city called the Forbidden City. The Forbidden City is where the emperors all lived. It's a huge place. But the interesting thing about the Forbidden City is that the Forbidden City, as huge as it is, has really just one gate. 3 entries, but 1 gate. You would think a huge place like that would have all kinds of gates, all kinds of entry points, but the Forbidden City has 1 gate. 3 entries, 1 gate. Interestingly enough, if you walk through that gate, you come to a huge courtyard and a lot of buildings, and then if you continue to go further into the Forbidden City, you come yet to another gate. 1 gate. That leads you to another courtyard, more buildings, and on you go. But there's always 1 gate, not multiple gates. Jesus, in a sense, like the Forbidden City, had that kind of image about the kingdom. 1 gate. 1 entry point into the city of heaven. There might be multiple roads that lead to that gate, but in Jesus' mind, there was just 1 gate. And he's the gate. You enter the kingdom through him, by walking with him, by getting to know him, by loving him, as Lisa sang about in her song. A couple years ago, I don't know if you caught it in the newspaper, there was an article about a woman who in the middle of the night woke up because she heard this strange sound. And if that's ever happened to you, you usually just kind of sit in bed for a little bit and you kind of try to figure out what that strange sound is. And that's what this woman did. She sat up in bed and she just listened for a while. What is that noise? And then she decided that the only way she was going to find out what that noise was to get out of bed and go down the stairs. And so she did. And as she's walking down the stairs with her heart pounding a little bit heavier, she sensed that the noise was coming from the living room. So she turned the corner and walked into the entryway of her living room and stopped dead in her tracks. What stopped her dead in the tracks was that there in her fireplace, upside down, was a man with his head through the flue of the fireplace, stuck. The man was obviously a burglar. And the sound that she heard was him struggling to try and free himself from that rather precarious position. Unfortunately, like that man, there are all kinds of people who try to gain access through means other than the front door. It happens in our day and age all the time. It happened in Jesus' day and age as well. But when Jesus said, he's the gate, what he was implying is that there's no other possible entry points into the kingdom. There are no chimneys to try and crawl down through. There are no windows. There are no back doors. Jesus is the only entry point, like the Forbidden City. He's the gate. And when you walk with Jesus in this world, then you become familiar with the gatekeeper. And because you're familiar with the gatekeeper, the gate opens for you to enter into a place of peace, security, protection, and freedom. I am the gate, said Jesus. I am the way you enter the kingdom of God. But gates not only provide entry, but as I tried to imply with our children this morning, gates also keep us safe when they're closed. Gates prevent things not wanted from coming in. And so when Jesus used this image of a gate, I think he also had this implication in mind, that just as a gate prevents things not wanted from coming in to that place of security and peace and freedom, so Jesus, the gate, prevents things from coming into the kingdom. Things like sin, things like violence, things like temptation, things like bitterness, things like anger, things like abuse. The gate keeps these things outside that place of peace and freedom. And with the absence of abuse and sin and violence and anger, then the kingdom truly is. As Jesus says otherwise in the scriptures, there's joy in the kingdom. There's peace in the kingdom. There's freedom in the kingdom. There's wholeness in the kingdom. There's contentment in the kingdom. So a gate keeps that which is not wanted on the outside, so that those on the inside know peace and joy and freedom. I am the gate, said Jesus. I am that entry point into the kingdom of God. Again, there might be many roads leading to the kingdom, but Jesus seems to be implying he's the only gate in. I am the gate, said Jesus. I am that which can protect you like a gate, keeping out that which is not wanted. So your experiencing the kingdom will indeed be loving, joyful, peaceful, content. The gate. Seems like it's a pretty good image for Jesus. Like the bread, like the life. Next week we'll look at yet another image that Jesus used time and time again for himself in the book of John. And that is this image of